Hello, my name is Sky Schneider, and I'm a student employee here at Oakland University. I'm one of the programmers working on the native Android application.
Hi, I'm Brandon Powell. I'm also a student employee here at Oakland University. I'm the lead programmer for the native Android application. In this video, we're going to talk about some of the problems we had with Titanium's version. We're going to explain how the native application works and demonstrate it so those who do not have an Android device can see how it functions.
The reason for going native was we were having a lot of problems with the Titanium version. One of the major problems was on older devices. The amount of RAM being used by the application would crash the phone. We would hit upwards of 110 megabytes of RAM used on a phone that only had 256 megabytes. This was only after about 2 minutes of normal use. The next issue we had was the application would give out alert error messages. These would not crash the phone, but the application would not function properly. The messages were not very helpful to the end user either. Because these messages were JavaScript and not Android errors, we could not find out in the Google Play Store if we had any crash reports. This would have made it difficult for us to debug problems when our users complained. Another issue that we encountered was that we were very limited as what we could do with the application programming-wise. A lot of the Android SDK was not available for us to make use of.
So now that we have the problems with Titanium explained, let's dive into how this native application works. First off, we make use of the Android SDK and do all the programming in Java. We do all of our development work in Vim on GNU Linux. You can use an editor like Eclipse, and you can also use Windows. When we load up the native application, we get our guest view home screen. This is just like you would get on the desktop. The home screen is actually constructed via uPortal's RESTful API, which is a JSON feed. We download and parse the uPortal's RESTful API to get the portlet name, the URL, the image location, and the portlet description. This RESTful API can be found at mysail.oakland.edu/uportal/layout.json. Once the user clicks on a portlet, the Android web view will take over. This web view is built into Android and is a way to display and handle web pages. The web view is basically just a web browser. With this design, we actually have a few major benefits. The load time for the home screen, once the application is first started, is very fast. We actually cache the portlet images on the phone to make it faster. I will cover more on this in a few. Anytime a new portlet is added to uPortal or to a user's homepage, the application will automatically pick up these new changes via uPortal's RESTful API. This way we do not need to push out an updated version of the application anytime a new portlet is added. Since we went native, we now have access to the entirety of the Android SDK. In the future, we can integrate GPS, the camera, push notifications, and any other feature that the SDK provides. Another benefit that we have is the ability to add navigation items on the home screen that are not part of uPortal. Now that we covered a high-level overview and explained some of the benefits, let's do the demonstration.
Once I click the application's button, it will load up and display our splash screen. After the splash screen loads, we get a dialog box that pops up and then it closes. This dialog box indicates that the RESTful API is parsed and then to start downloading the portlet images to the phone. As Brandon said, we cache the images to the phone for quicker load times. If we already have the image on the phone, we checked to see if the image has been updated. If the image has not been updated, do nothing, else we download the new portlet image. We do this so that if a portlet has the image changed, we do not need to push out an updated version of the application. This is the guest view currently on the home screen that one would see if the user went to the desktop version of our site. These three items down here are not part in uPortal. We added them in the guest view of our home screen and in the log view of our home screen. They're just links to pages on our website that have a mobile view.
Alright, so looking at this guest home screen is not all that helpful for the students. Let's log in and see what changes on the home screen. Alright, so my partner here, Sky's going to take the phone and log in for us. Okay, now that we have our user and password inputted, we hit sign on, or sign in rather. And this is what it looks like for this particular user when they log in. As you can see, we have many more folders and portlets. This user has actually customized their layout on the desktop version of the site. We can see those changes reflected in the mobile view. This is accomplished from uPortal's RESTful API. When the user is done doing what they have to do, they can log out by clicking the log.
Now that the user is logged out, the home screen is back at the guest view. If we were to log in again, the user's username and password are not stored on the device. The reason for this is you don't want someone to gain access to your account and do damage if you lose your phone. The storing of usernames and passwords can be implemented, but then they would need to be encrypted and stored safely on the device.
Another feature that we added in is a menu button. When we go to a portlet or end up off of our main site and want to get back, we can hit the menu button and hit the homepage button to go back to the homepage. There's also a refresh button in case the web page doesn't load properly. In this video, we covered the problems that we encountered with Titanium. We also covered a high-level explanation of how this native application works. To finish it off, we gave a demonstration on how the application behaves. Thanks for watching, and I'm Brandon Powell.
I'm Sky Schneider, and we are from Oakland University, and I hope you have enjoyed this app.